Welcome back to the Gathering of Bros, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Esquivel, joined by my co-host, good buddies, Brothers for Life, Leo Veritas.
What's up, everybody?
And the one and only Bulbasaur.
How it do?
How it do indeed, my friend. Well, as always, we are three friends who love video games, nerd culture, poking fun at each other, and we just want you to be a part of it. That's why we started this podcast. We hope you can enjoy it with us. On the dock today for Gathering of Bros, we're going to be talking about our continuation of the Avengers Endgame discussion. Of course, we've all seen it at this point. We've all been to the movies. I think I went on Thursday on opening night, and then Leo went this weekend, and then as of today, our Bulbasaur has seen it as well. So, we're going to be giving a full, indeed. We're going to be giving a full hour spoiler review. I repeat, spoiler review.
I'm sorry, Esk, did you say spoiler review?
I think I did, Leo.
Spoiler.
So you're telling me that we're going to be talking about spoilers for Avengers Endgame. Is that what you said we're going to be talking about?
Freaking hour, we're going to be talking about spoiler-heavy review.
Okay, so spoilers.
Yes. If we could say it just one more time, spoilers.
Spoilers.
So, if you haven't gotten it by this point, I don't know what to tell you. You might need to go to the doctor and have your ears checked. So, like I said, this is a spoiler-heavy review where we're going to discuss the entirety of the Endgame movie. We're going to try and go in a chronological order. We're going to be talking about our favorite parts and basically a lot of the key parts of the film and what we thought about them. This is a big movie. It's the conclusion to this phase of the MCU, and it was very climactic. Would you not agree with me there, guys? It was pretty good.
Very much so.
It was aight.
It was aight. It was aight. No, man. This freaking movie was amazing. Honestly, I think the first thing I posted on Facebook was the greatest movie I've ever seen, just because if you take it at face value, it's just a movie. But if you understand that this is the culmination of 20 plus films, dude, it's staggering how amazing and the amount of work that has gone into creating this universe and building it up to this point, to this one movie that has converged all these characters into one film. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm excited. I hope all our listeners are excited. Are you ready, guys?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. So, first and foremost, we open on the movie. A lot of people didn't expect it. It was kind of jarring because a lot of people, like myself, watched Infinity War and then went to go see the movie. So you end on Infinity War and then you go in and you see Hawkeye's family picnic. And you're like, oh, crap. You already know what's coming.
Not going to lie, before you continue with this, I completely thought it was another trailer for something else before it started up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so
I was not expecting
realized.
I didn't realize it until the Marvels thing came up. I was like, oh, this is actually the movie.
Yeah, because it just straight jumps in.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it doesn't even
It caught you off guard there then, huh?
Yeah, it just there it is.
So we're introduced, of course, to the Hawkeye family, which we've seen before. His wife asking about the hot dogs. I thought that was hilarious with the whole mayonnaise stuff. And then we see him training.
Do you like mayonnaise on your hot dogs?
No, I think it's weird. But I don't, the dialogue was funny. It was funny. And we see him training his daughter. And, side note, this could be significant because it looks like, Clint is going to retire. I think he's done after this.
We said Hawkeye to his daughter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot, did he? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Man. So I'm expecting that he's going to retire after all the terrible things that he's had to put up with in this film and with, saving the world multiple times. Oh, gosh, yes. So I think this is kind of showing that he's going to be passing the mantle to his daughter, who has some skill, who hits a bullseye right down the middle. So we can
that's
see
typically where the bullseye is.
Right out the gate. Haha! Yeah. Right out the gate, we see that she has her father's skill with the bow. So, foreshadowing. Uh, of course, they're talking, and he turns his back on his daughter, and then poof, she's gone. We see the leaves that we saw at the end of
Ash.
Infinity War. Is it ash? I mean, it looks like leaves to me, but
Yeah, it's like they're disintegrating into ash.
Yeah, that's like ash.
and before you know it, he's alone, and oh man, just the weight of what just happened, so devastating. Am I right?
So Bulba and I
God.
were talking about this off recording. I think it hit us a little more than it would you, Esk, or even anyone who's single. It hit Chrissy and I in the theater too. We were just like, "Oh my lord!" Like you just get this like bottomless pit feeling because we're parents. So
Oh yeah.
just thinking about like them being disintegrated was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
I literally almost bawled, like full on crying 30 seconds into the movie.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's a tough moment to see. Like, how dare they? How dare they put us through that trauma? The freaking Russo.
How dare
But
they?
of course, after that, we kind of see it coming, and then it happens, and then it's just like, it hits you hard, and then we move into, of course, the next phase where you start to see the after effects of the snap. Like we did discuss last week, I mistakenly thought that Tony was alone on the planet, but he was with Gamora. I'm sorry, not Gamora. I'm sorry, Nebula. He was with Nebula, and they got on a ship and tried to make their way back to Earth. Of course, they ran out of power, they ran out of food, and the performance by Robert Downey Jr. in this scene is outstanding. He thinned out a lot. I don't know if you guys realized.
Yeah.
He was just so thin. He had jaundice in his eyes, malnutrition. It was so real. The devastation to his body. I felt the desperation within him. Wouldn't you guys agree in that moment?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. He looked pretty desperate.
Oh, dude, it was tough to watch. And then Nebula, of course, being mostly robotic, doesn't really need all the things that he needs to survive. So just kind of seeing her watch him deteriorate, that had to have been difficult. Luckily, we see him film his final message, and then luckily, as he's kind of sleeping, this light appears, and lo and behold, Captain Marvel comes to save the freaking day. So
I'll be honest, I didn't predict that.
No,
I didn't
not at
predict
all.
it either. Yeah.
Not to mention, I still haven't even seen Captain Marvel. So
Oh,
Oh
that.
shoot. Oh dude, yeah. So you're totally okay. Well, actually, that'll be a good perspective to have in this then, because we are going to discuss that a little bit. So yeah, Captain Marvel comes and saves the day, gets him back, and then we see that moment where he's like crawling, not crawling, but limping, and he's having to be carried off the ship, and he's so weak, and everybody sees him, and Pepper comes up, and well, at first he didn't know. He asked, "Is she?" And then he sees her, and then it's just like reuniting moment of like, "Oh, thank God, I didn't lose you." So emotional. This whole thing, it was tough to see. You see Nebula kind of sit down, and Rocket sits down next to her and kind of holds her hand, and it's just this terrible moment of like everyone recognizing the loss that they just suffered. And I think there was a moment where Iron Man says we lost, and then Cap says we all lost. So it was tough. It was tough to see this. They bring him inside, and that's when they kind of start to game plan. And Tony, as you could see, has been absolutely broken by what just happened. I think you guys would agree that seeing Peter Parker fade away, it absolutely just ripped him apart.
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah. He saw him almost like a son, a protege, someone he was raising to be a hero, but better than himself. So that whole scene at the end of Infinity War was just horrible.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we can see that it's had an effect on him, and he's emotionally overwhelmed, and he has this breakdown. And it's weird to see Iron Man, who's been, he kind of kills everything with comedy. He's very sarcastic, even in serious moments. And he's kind of been I wouldn't say the leader, but he's been kind of like the Rock. Him and Cap together have been the Rocks of the Avengers. They've been kind of the ones who've been bringing everyone along with them. Tony, being essentially the one who started it all, is now completely broken and just giving up. And he has this mental breakdown. He screams. He's angry. He's very angry, especially at Cap. He says some very hurtful things like, "Where were you?" He mentions, there's some callbacks to the security he wanted to build around the Earth that we kind of got a feel for back in Age of Ultron, where that was supposed to prevent all this. And there's a lot of regret in his little monologue that he has there, and it's very hard to watch. Just a kind of a transition is they start to talk about, well, let's go get him. Let's go find Thanos and get the Infinity Stones and reverse this. They're able to track him because they know the snap created this surge of energy that, started at Earth and went out to the rest of the universe. And they're able to identify a similar surge of energy on another planet known as, I believe it was known as the Garden, right? I think that's what they call it. And
that's what Thanos called it, yeah.
That's what, yeah. Well, I think Rocket called it too, and then I think Nebula had referred to it, that she had heard from Thanos about it as well. So, yeah, he goes to the Garden and he uses the stones, and that's where that energy source comes from. So they know that's where he is. So of course they're like, let's go get him. They're pissed off. They want to go reverse everything that just happened, and they head out. And something I do want to mention is kind of like the Captain Marvel quote, "Well, you didn't have me," type thing, like that attitude, like, "Oh, well, last time I wasn't there." How did you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't see much weight in it. It was, I don't know. Captain Marvel in this movie, to me, didn't do enough. And I know that's hard because you have the closing out of these characters that we've had in several movies now, and closing out of character arcs and things like that. But at the same time, they didn't really do anything with her. So it was kind of, I don't know. It wasn't a very weighty statement.
It's a bit disappointing, would you say?
Yeah, in my opinion.
Okay. Bulba, what about you? I know you hadn't seen Captain Marvel, so going into this, seeing that's kind of her reaction, where she's kind of overconfident, kind of cocky, and you kind of get this feeling of like, bitch, you don't even go here, like, you know what I mean? Like, where have you been? You haven't even been involved in this crap, and you're coming here and you're throwing your weight around. And you kind of have that moment where Thor comes up and is like, "I like this one." Like, how did you feel about that, Bulba?
I actually kind of liked it, and the reason I liked it is because the way, I'm not sure if this is like legit, but she feels like the equivalent of Superman to DC. So she's, yeah, she would have made a very big impact had she been there the first time. So her statement, "You didn't have me," carries a lot of weight because no, they didn't have her. It could have been a whole lot different because of
could have been a different story.
I mean, she traveled all the way across the fucking galaxy and brought Iron Man back.
That's impressive, yeah. From what you saw,
the whole plane on her, practically on her shoulders as she entered the Earth's atmosphere. I mean, it. So yeah, I would say it's cocky, very cocky, but at the same time, there is weight behind it because she has the strength. I mean, she probably is close to the level, maybe not super close to the level, but could take on Thanos essentially.
Understood. How do you feel about maybe going back and watching Captain Marvel now that you've kind of seen her participate in this movie, and just from what you have seen?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go watch it. I mean, I was gonna watch it regardless. I just hadn't gotten around to it.
Okay. Are you more excited now that you have seen her in this movie?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see, like, if memory serves, I believe this is the movie Captain Marvel is like her upbringing, essentially.
Yeah.
It's kind of how she became Captain Marvel. It's an origin story. It takes place in the 90s, which is awesome.
So I mean, I'm kind of excited to see like how she came up. So that's cool.
That's awesome. Okay.
Let me clarify really quickly. What I meant with no weight, I didn't mean that like, oh, well, what is she going to do? She doesn't really have any importance. I just mean like they didn't utilize her, in my opinion, for having such a big character. And again, I understand why, because you're trying to close out the character arcs of all of these big characters like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, like all of the original Avengers. And I get it, but they didn't use her that much. And we'll get into it more the more that we talk about it, but that's what I'm trying to clarify and say.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense then.
Yeah. So they didn't utilize her for that blanket statement that you're gonna think that she's gonna be utilized more throughout this movie. So
yeah, I can agree with that. I will say, and like we're about to get it. I mean, we're literally about to get why we don't see her as much throughout the movie. I would have liked to see more, especially in that moment of when they're prepping, of her concern for her connection to the Avengers, which would be, the operator of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Fury.
Yes. And I'm just kind of bummed out that we didn't get to see her kind of hash out that sadness, because she was friends with Fury. They did have a relationship that they had built in that movie. And to see it just kind of like, oh, they didn't even really acknowledge it, is kind of disappointing. Felt like a missed opportunity. But I digress. We'll move forward because we're about to touch on why we don't see her too much.
Yeah.
So of course they pick themselves up out of their sadness, and they go to find Thanos, who's on the garden. And funny moment, they're going into space, and Rocket looks back and he goes, "Who here has never been into space before?" And they all raise their hands. It's like, "Don't throw up in my spaceship!" Like, I thought that was so funny.
Good, yeah.
That was
good. Such a great line, and it was cool. It was kind of a cool moment. Like, oh shit! Like, the Avengers are going into space. Like, this is becoming the cosmic Avengers. Like, they're kind of like stepping into a whole new universe now. Like, it's not just Earth anymore. And we kind of expected that with the Guardians kind of coming into play here. So it's really cool. They get to the planet. Captain Marvel does some scouting. Of course, she goes down to the planet, finds out that there's nobody, and it's just him. Then we kind of go down to the planet. We see Farmer Thanos going out and picking some fruit or vegetable or whatever the hell that alien produce was. And then he kind of like, you could tell he's very injured. He's extremely injured. He's limping. He's got like half his body is black, and then it goes down. And what did you guys think about just everything that went down there? They kind of ganged up on him, subdued him, and then they're sitting there questioning him. Boba, let's start with you. What did you think about that moment?
Well deserved. Very kind of heartbreaking, especially with Thor's reaction.
Oh, definitely. Discovering that he the thing that they were able to find him with, the signal from the stones, was him destroying the stones.
Right.
Heartbreaking. What do we do now?
Yeah, you can just see it in his face, his disgust with everything that's happened, and then the final blow.
Totally horrible. Yeah, we know he says what in my opinion is one of the most heartbreaking moments of the whole film is he cuts his head off. We know he cuts his head off, and it falls to the ground, and everyone's kind of shocked by it. They're like, "Whoa, did that just happen? Did we just murder this man? And what did you just do?" And what does he say? He says,
"I went for the head."
I went for the head, man. I went for the head. Just heartbreaking to hear him so broken. That's all he had left. You know what I mean? He lost so much. And if he wasn't gonna take his head, that is the last thing that he was gonna do. At least he had that. What did you think about this moment, Leo?
Yeah, it was very weighty because just again, we had talked last week about how trailers kind of give you misdirection and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so when they went into space, I was like, oh wow, okay, maybe this movie's gonna go down in a different way, other than time travel. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe I thought that it was still going to happen, but regardless, they get there, and then that whole scene where they find out that the stones have been destroyed, you're you as an audience member are kind of sitting there going, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do now? What are they gonna do now?"
Oh yeah, subverted expectations. Like we all thought it was going to go way different, and then of course Thanos dies within the first few minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, what the hell do they do now? Exactly.
Yep.
So, and then we get, of course, the 5, and then the anticipation mounts years, and you're like, I don't know about you guys, but I was like, oh no! I was just shocked by the fact that this much time has now passed with them
His
having
reaction,
lost.
oh my god.
Oh,
I literally said that in the film. I was watching the film
He's
and I
sitting-
like audibly, oh no! I was like, 5 years has passed and they've had to sit on this loss. Like that is terrible. So 5 years later,
You just hear Esk in the movie theater. Oh no! Someone in the background's
pretty
like,
much.
"Shut up!"
Shut up! Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Let's move into Scott Lang, Ant-Man, returning from the quantum realm.
The true MVP.
The true MVP. Very true. We all expected him to come back just based on the trailers, of course. But I thought it was absolutely hilarious how he came back.
I was gonna say, do you know who the true MVP is that I'm talking about?
It's the rat.
Yeah, the rat. I wasn't talking about Ant-Man. I was talking about the rat. In all the millions of outcomes that Doctor Strange saw, he knew that the rat was going to just so happen to hit that button.
The rat that got him out.
Yep.
Oh, man. I guess he is the true MVP.
True MVP.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That is a good point, everyone. So he makes his way out. Of course, he ends up in the storage facility that the van is being stored in. Super funny. Gets let out. And there's this moment where he's kind of like trying to find his home and he sees all the devastation. And then he stops this kid and is just like, what happened here? And the kid kind of is automatically triggered by the whole situation. He's traumatized by everything that happened. Just kind of stares at him like,
how dare
what?
you
And
ask me that question?
Yeah, like that. He's offended by him asking, and then he kind of bikes away. And then he goes to the memorial, and he sees his name on the memorial, freaks out, rushes home, and sees his daughter. He's reunited with his daughter, who we're familiar with her being a young kid. Now she's a young woman, and he's just stunned by the fact that she's now old, and she's, of course, like, oh my gosh, I thought you were dead for 5 years now. And there he is. So you can imagine the shock and awe. How did you guys react to this situation? Boba, let's start with you.
Well, being a parent myself, I, again, almost bawled out crying. It hit so close to home. I mean, I've never had this experience, obviously, but
it's like the whole first portion of the movie is just like directed towards you and just making break down in tears. Oh, exactly. Man.
They're like, oh, just like crying.
But yeah, just having to imagine like what they would have been going through, it pulled on my heartstrings.
I feel it, man. And what about you, Leo?
I agree with Boba. It was almost heartwarming to finally get some relief from just the pure oppression that we were getting in the movie so far, from just loss and loss and loss. So just to kind of see that reunion was just almost like a small sigh of relief, and I think they did that purposefully so that we didn't feel like we were suffocating. But I liked it. I liked that scene.
Paul Rudd is a good, person to accomplish that as well, because he's just so funny, in that moment of their embrace. He's like, you're older, is Paul Rudd way is hilarious and brings some lightness to the situation.
Yeah.
So moving forward from there, he makes his way over to the Avengers stronghold, and Black Widow is sitting there having this kind of like intergalactic conference call with everybody who's around the world and in space. We see Rocket. We actually see Rhodey, who is apparently tracking down Hawkeye Ronin Clint, and there's some crazy stuff going down in Mexico. And then, of course, we do want to mention Captain Marvel, who mentions that she's not going to be home for a while. You probably won't see me for a while because everybody's going through the same thing that Earth is, and they need help. So totally makes sense to me. I was glad with that explanation. I'd hate to have her involved in the entirety of the movie. Let her come when she needs to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
See, and
yeah, she specifically said that they don't have you in applying that they don't have a group of people that are like the Avengers. It's just her.
She
I'm glad. I was pretty happy with that explanation.
Yeah, she specified.
So other planets need help. I like seeing that Nat or Black Widow, they kind of needed a replacement for Nick Fury, and lo and behold, she was willing. So she kind of held S.H.I.E.L.D. together, held the Avengers Initiative together, and, well, technically S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone, but I guess it's the remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. have become the Avengers Initiative. Held them all together and was able to sustain the group so they could continue helping people after the snap. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on her. She breaks down in tears at one point, and then we see Captain America come in, and they always have this like really intense like sexual tension that we've just seen forever. But it's like they're not destined for each other, but there's definitely something there. Like if they were the last two on the planet, like they would just embrace the hell out of that. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're talking, and obviously she's just wrecked through all the stress, but she has strength because she's like, this is all I know. This is what I know, and this saved me, and I'm gonna freaking do it. And of course, ding dong, who's at the front door? Oh, hey, it's Ant-Man. Hey guys, no, I'm Ant-Man. I met you guys a few years ago, and I love that line of like, is this a recording? And she's like, this is the front door. Completely an amazing moment to see that. Totally ruined for us in the trailer, but still fun to watch in the film. So he comes home to them and is able to talk to them about his experiences. I love the presence of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was good.
And
that was a good little comedic relief in there. I liked that too.
Super funny. He's all of a sudden he's hyped up about talking about solutions to the problem, and like there's one line, have either of you guys studied quantum physics? And Black Widow goes, only to make conversation. I love stuff like that. It's totally hilarious. And then he starts talking about the time heist, right? And Captain America, are you talking about a time machine? He goes, no, of course not. Not a time machine. It's more like a time machine. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. Paul Rudd's delivery of that whole scene, super funny. Obviously, we know that there's going to be some pretty funny conversation about time travel in this film at this point, and of course, it only gets better. What do you guys think so far at this point about the? It looks like we're going to be going into time travel. Were you guys expecting it? Are you disappointed at this point, or are you like, okay, let's see where it goes? Leo, let's start with you.
I kind of called it in the last podcast that we had that I thought that time travel was going to happen. I'm not disappointed with it. I thought that it was a good direction to go. I mean, really, what else were you going to do? I didn't predict, and again, I know this is a spoiler review, but I know we're going to talk about these things, so I don't want to jump ahead of us in the conversation, but I didn't predict what using going back in time was going to do for them. I didn't predict the outcome of that.
Understood. So, okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay. Bulba, what about you? How'd you feel about just the story kind of developing at this point?
I had no idea they were going to do it, and honestly, it was actually pretty cool. I was kind of stoked on how they were going to do it, why they were doing it. It was blown away and happy with it.
It's a good twist, yeah. I have to say, I didn't expect it myself. If anything, I thought like maybe once they got the time stone back, but even then I was like, it would be more realistic to just somehow get them back by other means, and that wasn't necessarily time travel. So I was pretty shocked by the whole thing and the premise and the efficiency of it. You know what I mean? Of course, it didn't work out all, like it should have in the beginning, and they had to figure out how to actually do it. Of course, they needed a big brain to figure it out. So the time heist begins to unfold. The gravity of the situation, they need Tony Stark. So they go and they see Tony. There's this moment of, Tony has a daughter. Holy crap, he started a family. He's living in the freaking woods. And Tony is trying to get away from it all. And, his daughter is super cute, and she's got the Iron Man helmet on, but it's not Iron Man helmet, it's Pepper's helmet. The name escapes me of what Pepper's superhero name is.
I believe it's Rescue.
Remember. Is that what it is?
That's believe so.
Name. I totally did not realize that's what the name was. I thought it was something else, but yeah, that's pretty awesome. So she's got the Rescue helmet, if that's what it is. Please correct us. Let us know in the comments below. Send your hate mail to gatheringyourbros@gmail.com. So the gravity situation kind of like presents itself in that conversation with Tony, where he's just kind of like, well, you can't do it. This is ridiculous. Why are we even talking about this? Let's move on. It happened. And you could tell that he's really just broken from everything that happened. And he's kind of washed his hands of it. He's like, we tried, we lost. That's it. That's his initial decision. Were you guys disappointed that that's how it started out? Bulba, did you kind of understand where he was coming from? I mean, especially you being a father and everything, like wanting to just protect your own, and that's it.
Oh yeah, I would not have done anything different.
Yeah,
coming from a father's standpoint, no, there's no way I'm going to sacrifice what I have now, my family, for anyone else, because when it comes to you and your family versus everyone else, you always have to choose yourself.
Agreed.
So yeah, I'm pretty on board with that too. Like I felt so bad just considering everything that's been lost, and Tony deserves some peace in my opinion. And at the same time, you're like, well, they need him. They need his intelligence. He's the only one who's going to figure it out. So of course they leave, and he initially tells them no. And there were some funny Back to the Future lines there. They go into it a little more, and I'll mention it. But initially, Tony and Scott Lang, like, they have this little discussion. Do you really think that time travel is pretty much like Back to the Future? And he's like, no. Why would it? It's pretty funny. So they leave, and they go to a diner, and you see them with Hulk. But oh my God, Hulk is talking, which means he's Professor Hulk from the comics. This is a huge moment for a lot of people who know about the moment that Banner was able to merge himself, his identity and his knowledge, his brain, with the Hulk and his strength in his body. So Professor Hulk, Smart Hulk. And that whole exchange with him and Scott Lang, Ant-Man, absolutely hysterical. Oh, he wants to take a picture with you.
Yeah, that entire scene was hilarious to me. Just the fact that he takes a selfie or whatever, a picture with them, and then they're like, oh, do you want a picture? And he's just like, no, it's fine.
Well, they don't know who you are. Oh gosh, the whole thing. And then he gets over, he's like, take the goddamn phone. He's so angry. He's like, just get it out of here. Like, I'm done. I thought it was just portrayed super well. I love how they were able to explain how, he was at odds with himself, and he thought that Hulk was the disease, and how, 18 months in a gamma lab, he was able to merge the two finally. I thought that was awesome. A lot of people, they didn't like that. They wanted Hulk to be Hulk smash, but I don't think they realize that Professor Hulk is essentially the culmination of the Hulk. That's who he ends up becoming. So you guys were okay with it, though? You liked Smart Hulk?
Oh yeah.
Why not? Yeah. I thought it was great. Fun fact: I had this spoiled for me because I was walking through Target, and because I'm a big kid, I sometimes peruse through the toy section, and I happened to look and see the fact that Hulk didn't look like Hulk Smash Hulk. He looked smarter and more like Bruce Banner, and therefore the toys ruined it for me, and I knew he was going to be Professor Hulk.
They were really good for the most part with the advertising, and whenever they showed Banner, he was Banner. They never showed Smart Hulk. They really wanted to save that for the the movie and kind of like the big reveal. So for the most part, they did okay. But yeah, the toys, man, they'll get you. They will get you. They reveal a lot of things sometimes. That's that. We're moving on to our next part here, which is my personal favorite part of the whole movie: the reveal of Fat Thor. So we see we see Rocket, and who else did he go with? It was Rocket and I think it was Hulk. It was Banner.
Yeah.
They go to get Thor from New Asgard. And they show up, and of course they see Valkyrie, and they're like, "Well, where is he?" And you don't ever get to see him, and so he comes down every once in a while for supplies, and of course all those freaking kegs. You're just like, "Whoa, he's been drinking a lot." So they go up to his place, and the hilarity ensues. Oh my gosh, he's obviously broken. He's lost everything, and he's fallen into this state of just drunkenness that has just destroyed his body, and he's the guy's broken. He's lost everything. He lost his brother, he lost the majority of his people, his father, his mother. He lost to Thanos humiliated, should have went for the head, and it's just he's just broken. So it makes sense why he is where he is right now. How did you guys feel about just seeing this or everything he's gone through? Boba, let's start with you.
Well, it was very disappointing seeing the God of Thunder in such a
poor state.
Piss poor state, but god damn, it was hilarious.
So funny!
I was not expecting a beer belly.
But without the shirt, though, that's I mean, he was just letting it all hang out. And like he's probably used to it, because he's Thor, so he's usually cut, and just like, yeah. And he's like, whatever, just let it all hang out. Leo, how did you take that moment?
Oh yeah, man, that was classic. It was great. I did not expect that at all. I thought that they've been making Thor kind of the comic relief, and though he has like all that power and he's probably one of the strongest Marvel heroes, it was just great to have that again during a really just kind of depressing like film in general, at least the beginning part. But
definitely,
yeah, it was great. It was a great scene.
We get a lot of funny moments. You get, of course, Hulk telling him like, I know you're scared, and he gets all defensive like, who's scared? Why would I be scared of that guy? I'm the one who killed that guy, remember? And then he goes, I don't know if you guys caught this, he goes, tell everyone who chopped that guy's head off. And he looks over at the, I can't remember his name, the Rock dude. He goes, tell everyone who chopped that guy's head off. And he goes, Stormbreaker. And he goes, but who was swinging Stormbreaker? Oh yeah, I was Stormbreaker. I was the one who was wielding him. Come on, man. So, yeah, totally inspired by the dude. From the Big Lebowski, as you guys, there was a reference later that Tony made, but it is so funny. Hey guys, well, come on in. What? No password on the Wi-Fi, of course. Be in the fridge. I love that. So funny. At one point, he goes, "Oh, he's back. This kid on the TV just called me a dickhead again." And
they're playing Fortnite. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, Look here, new Master 69. This is Thor, the God of Thunder. You get off this game right now before I come down there and rip off your arms and stick them up your ass. Like, I thought that was so funny. Just seeing, the culture kind of merge with the movie, and he's at such a low point that he's beer gutted out and he's playing Fortnite with the dudes, and so funny. And then I think that my favorite line of the whole scene was probably, let's see, I'd say Rocket. He tells him, "You look like melted ice cream."
That was great.
That was pretty epic.
That was a pretty great line. So, yeah, overall, great scene. Then, of course, the get in, we got beer. Love that too. That was great. So, Thor has been recruited. Of course, he's not what he used to be.
That would have been my line too. Well, what kind of beer you got?
What kind of beer? Exactly, right? That's the obvious answer to that question. So, Thor may not be what he's used to be, but that doesn't mean he's not strong. He is as strong as he used to be, but his body is not where it should be. The age change Ant-Man scene was pretty funny, I'd say. Of course, they get back to trying to figure out how to do the time travel, and Ant-Man is kind of the guinea pig, so to speak. And he goes to, infant Ant-Man to old man Ant-Man, and then
That was hilarious.
I think I peed my pants. But I can't
I
tell if
couldn't
it was
tell if it
baby
was the baby
me,
me or the old
old
me
me,
or the
or
me.
Mimi. That was great. So yeah, not obviously not Banner's specialty. He kind of is more smart along the lines of gamma radiation, which leads me to kind of our next point of Tony reconsidering to help the team and save the day. So of course it's eating him away, and he can't let it go. So he's got to see if it's possible. So he of course, does his tests, and what the heck? It freaking worked. He falls back in his chair, absolutely shocked. I was a little disappointed with this moment, guys, particularly because I was hoping they'd draw it out just a little bit more, that maybe he could try a couple things, and they failed. But it's kind of like the first thing, he put it all together, and it freaking worked. So, I don't know. Did you guys get that at all, Boba?
Well, I mean, he was doing it for a while. You could tell he's been sitting there doing it for a while, and then all of a sudden he just said, "You know what? Well, screw it. Let's try it with this." And he was just like blown away, like, "Holy shit! It actually worked."
So
Yeah.
it's insinuated then.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell just by the way he's like pissed off and depressed about it. It's eating him away that he hasn't been able to figure it out, and then all of a sudden, holy hell, I just did it.
Yeah. Did you get that too, Leo?
Yeah, I was going to say that it is implied that he had been working on a theory for like time travel already, and it didn't pan out for him. So he was, like Boba said, he was just pissed off and angry at the thought of someone coming to him and saying time travel, like he hadn't thought of it already. And I guess it's implied that just because of the way that Scott had talked to him about the quantum realm and everything like that, that he tried something a little bit different than what he had thought of, and it actually
given the new information,
right?
Yeah.
So that was something that was kind of implied. Also, they didn't really explain that, but it kind of came through that way.
So in that moment, he discovers it, and then of course his daughter comes downstairs. You kind of you're introduced to Morgan Stark and her relationship with her father, and it's very sweet. I'm sure that touched you guys, being dads.
3000.
Yeah, I love you 3000. And you get the sense of
3000, but she only said she loved you.
Dude,
600 to 900.
that was so true to being parents. I can assure you. I know that's something you guys would say to your wives, like 100%. Like I'm sure that discussion
It's not a competition.
Somewhere along the lines of like, I know he loves me more. So yeah, we got lucky, and a lot of other people didn't. This is kind of like a message that we get from Tony when he's talking with Pepper, and survivor's guilt there, where he kind of sees like he wants to just put it in a box and throw it away, but he can't do it because he survived and everything worked out well for them. But there's a lot of people that it just did not work that way. So of course he comes to the decision, with the help of Pepper, where be without Pepper, who is like his guiding light, convinces him do it for the people. And that's when we transition to him coming in a very Tony Stark way in a sports car. I believe it was an Audi. Total product placement, but I'm not even don't even care. It was totally fine. Audi coming up and pulling up right next to Cap, and he's like, "So, turn him into a baby or something like that." And yep, I think somebody warned you about that. Yeah, totally hilarious. He's of course Tony Stark again. We feel like he's finally back from his defeat, Tony, that he turned into after seeing Peter die. So it kind of feels like the gang's kind of getting back together, with the exception of Thor still being in his state. Yeah, so he makes up with Cap. It's a big moment, and it's something that's kind of been coming for a long time, since we see, they're falling out in Civil War. And I'm just glad that they were finally able to talk and get things straight. So yeah, the time heist has now been revealed. They talk about what they're going to do. A lot of the discussion leading up to it. First of all, I loved Hawkeye kind of like jumping in to volunteer, and then he goes back and hears his daughter's voice and picks up the glove, and it freaking works. Oh my gosh. And it actually is cool. It's a call to maybe something that might happen in the future. In the comics, Hawkeye got tired of not being able to keep up with his superhero friends and drank a vial of Pym's growth serum and turned into a new superhero by the name of Goliath. And it's kind of hinting towards that, but at the same time, I think we're in agreement. We're leaning toward him retiring. So they start listing movies about everything that they've learned about time machines and what the rules of time travel are. And just to list some of those, they Star Trek, Terminator, Time Cop, Time After Time, Quantum Leap, Wrinkle in Time, Somewhere in Time, Hot Tub Time Machine.
That was good.
Super good. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Die Hard? No, that's not one of them. Love that moment. That was hilarious. Paul Rudd can just kill these comical moments. I love Ant-Man in this movie at this point, and I'm totally sold on him. And I'm glad when we're watching this, like, it dawns on me, like, freaking Ant-Man is now, like, he's in the Avengers now. Like, it's official. You know what I mean? Like, he had this, like, short moment in Civil War, and then he has his own 2 movies, but he's never really been part of the group. Now he's officially part of the group now. And it's really good to see that. What did you guys think about it?
Oh yeah, man. It was great. They all played off of each other really well, and adding Ant-Man into the fold of Avengers where he just kind of seemed out of place and yet somehow had his own place. So I thought it was really
And he
good.
belonged at the same time. Yeah, absolutely hysterical. Plan's been laid out. We now understand what's going to happen. They decide that they've all encountered the 6 Infinity Stones at one point. They need 3 teams. They got 1 shot. Cap has his very inspirational speech. We get that super funny line by Rocket. Like, he's really good at that. That was absolutely hilarious in the moment. I think Rocket is just vibing with everybody at this point.
Yeah.
We had a really funny
moment.
What
Rocket does.
Oh yeah, totally. We had a really funny moment just previously between him and Iron Man, where
he called him a Build-A-Bear.
says something to him. He goes, "I thought until this very moment, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear," and then I'm pretty sure he responds, "You're only a genius on Earth, pal." I thought that was hilarious. So just that back and forth, super great. Can't go wrong with Bradley Cooper in his role as Rocket. So of course we go back in time.
I'm going to stop you real quick. I'm curious why, if they only had X amount of these, what are they, atoms or whatever?
Pym particles.
Pym particles.
Yeah.
If they had just a X amount of that, why didn't they go back to collect more and then come back and then start this so they have multiple tries than just one?
Why didn't that cross their mind? Question. I'm going to say because they didn't have a definitive time and place where they knew that the Pym particles would be, where they could go and, without causing damage to the timeline.
No, as you saw them do it while they actually went back.
Yeah, but I don't think it dawned on Tony until that moment when they were like, yeah, well, they absolutely had no other choice. It was in the moment type of thing. Well, we missed out on the stone, so we need to get the stone. But if we do, and we go back further, we're not going to have enough. Well, that means we would need more Pym particles. Well, where can we get them and the stone at the same time?
Well, that's what I'm saying. All kind of worked out. Obviously, when you're thinking of going back, why wouldn't that cross your mind like, oh shit, what if we make a mistake and we have to come back and we have to go back and do it again?
Well, they did.
Why not think about it initially?
They did.
You know what I'm saying?
They did originally say, like, this is our 1 shot. We each got 1 shot. And so they kind of banked it all on the fact that they're all running on adrenaline, like, all right, this is it. This is our chance. We're going to do this. And we have what we have mapped out already.
They're not going to fail. They're very motivated.
They're motivated to not fail. So in that, and in the fact that they're the Avengers and they're all, heroes and have dealt with things before, it could have just been a moment of just not thinking clearly. It could have just been them relying on the fact that they've done things before as a team, or I have no idea, but I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I think it's just for the facade of the movie, to be honest.
Yeah, it was just written that way. At least that's what my dad used to say. I don't know, it was just written that way.
It also does make sense, though, that they're going to plan on not failing, so obviously, if they fail, they're going to need Pym particles, but that's just more planning involved, more dealing with the timeline. They want to get in and get out. They don't want to mess with anything. And they know that if they succeed, they'll have all the Pym particles they need because Hank Pym will be restored if they can fix everything. So that's kind of what they're planning on, get everything right so they can get back in time and put everything back where it's supposed to be. So leading into that, we go back to the Battle of New York. At this point, we're looking for the Time Stone. We're looking for the Mind Stone and the Space Stone. Hulk goes to the Ancient One, who is the predecessor of Doctor Strange. And she has, of course, the Eye of... I can't even remember the name. Agamotto, yes, that contains the Time Stone. He asks her for it. She says, no. And he's like, well, I'm going to take it. And she does the astral projection on him. I thought that was awesome because he came out as Bruce Banner. Like, he bodies Hulk, comes out as Bruce Banner. That's pretty dope. Which essentially leads us to the moment of them having this discussion of why she should trust him with the stone. And he says, well, then why did he give it to Thanos? She has this shock on her face. And she starts to kind of put it together like, well, he wouldn't give it to Thanos unless that was the only option. And leads us to, well, he is the best of us. And she gives him the stone. Very awesome moment. What did you guys think of that exchange between Hulk and the Ancient One? Leo, let's start with you.
Yeah, man, it was good. I liked the look of shock on her face. She just, like, knew. She was like, oh
yeah. She obviously has put complete faith in Strange. Yeah. So, and what's cool is this is even before she has formally met him.
Right.
So her impression of Strange is, coming from reaching into the future, most likely with the stone. So she knows what's coming. It says a lot about his character, I have to say. Bulba, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, it's the look of shock on her face that he gave it away, and the realization, well, I mean, if he gave it, obviously by me not giving it to you, I'm doing something wrong.
Yep, it was an assurance in that moment of well, I believe in him, so I have to believe in you. And I thought that was a pretty good moment. Obviously, it was kind of like an eye opener for, obviously the Endgame he planned. When he gives the stone and then he fades away, he looks at Tony. We're in the Endgame now. You're kind of realizing this is all part of the plan. He saw all this coming. So that's a pretty big moment. Moving along, we're still in the Battle of New York. That's the Time Stone checked off. Fortunately, they're all together. The Mind Stone is in the staff that Loki used during the battle, which he used to control people's minds, hasn't yet been put into Vision's forehead, and the Space Stone is still in the square, whatever the heck it's called. I can't even remember what it's called. Some funny moments there. They're up in the tower. They kind of are witnessing the final moments of the battle. Loki's been defeated. He got turned into a rag doll, if you guys remember correctly, by Hulk, who just completely destroyed him. There's a few funny moments. That suit does nothing for your ass.
That's America's ass.
That is America's ass.
As far as I'm concerned, that's America's. Love that line from Ant-Man. It was super good. There's another cool moment that we never previously saw of Loki mocking Cap. Just kind of like these moments that they happened, but we never got to see them because of the, skip forward in time. Loki, of course, escapes with the stone because of a blunder. Hulk comes out, stares at the bottom, knocks the suitcase away, and there's this funny moment of him. He looks down, is like, oh, okay, and he picks it up and just disappears. I thought that was hilarious. And then another favorite moment of mine, Cap goes into the crowded elevator, and Crossbones is there, who we saw at the beginning of Civil War. And we get that Hail Hydra moment, which was epic, just knowing how to dupe them completely.
That was great.
And he just walks casually out of the elevator. It was so epic. It was like, oh, dude, Cap, good job. And lo and behold, he runs into the younger, headstrong version of himself.
Oh,
and That was super funny. That fight that took place. I could do this all day. Call back to his line from the first Avenger in the very beginning, still skinny Cap, and he gets in a fight in the alley. I could do this all day. Hilarious moment. He finally beats himself. As he walks away, that is America's ass. Did you guys laugh?
I did.
I laughed so hard.
I did. I laughed out loud.
Yeah, I laughed pretty hard.
I don't know what
Which
it
is kind of embarrassing because there's only like 5 other people in the theater with me, and no one else laughed at it.
That's great.
Chris Evans, when he delivers moments like that, he does it so straight faced as Cap that it's like it's not typical of him to give funny lines like that, and it just makes it so much funny. So, of course, they lost one of the stones, but they got the Mind Stone. That's a check, and Plan B has to ensue. So what do? They go back to the 70s, a little bit earlier to get the stone. Never mind that they totally screwed up that timeline, and Loki now has the stone and got away. But I digress. Back in the 70s, we get a really awesome moment with Howard Stark, Tony's dad, as he goes down to get the stone, and that's the Space Stone. So they got it, but unfortunately, Howard kind of catches him as he's escaping, has this moment of shock. But we get a really nice moment where he kind of gets closure with that. He's kind of always had dad problems, and of course he discovers that Bucky killed his mom and dad. A lot of tragedy there. And he gets to tell his dad, like, hey, I have a daughter. He says that. And there's also a line where he says no amount of money ever bought a second of time. What did you guys think about that kind of moment that they shared together, all the way from the bottom as they escape through the elevator and then up top to the car where you kind of see him and Jarvis? What did you guys think? Let's start with you, Leo.
It was good. It was nice, kind of a closure and almost like a foreshadowing. Like he was trying to justify the fact that he was making this decision that it could affect his daughter, and I don't know. It was a good scene. It was a good scene of closure, of almost like foreshadowing. I like that.
Only like reaffirming his decision that he made to jump right back into the shit, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with what Leo said. Again, being a father and hearing stuff like that, and it hits harder for me. I feel just having him confront his father, who in his upbringing he felt like he was neglected, and hearing his father say that he never stopped caring about him, everything was for him. It hurt.
Yeah,
hurt in a good way.
Yeah,
it was a good
real man tears.
It was a pretty nice moment, I have to say. So we move on to Cap having his little moment. He goes he goes and gets the Pym particles with that little prank call. I thought that was hilarious. It was glowing green, and then Pym freaks out, and then he runs towards it. Get out of the way! Down the hall. Goes in, he grabs the particles, and then trying to escape, he walks into Peggy Carter's office, which is kind of this moment of he sees his photo on her desk, and it's just like, oh, she never gave up on me, and just that love is still there, and you could tell like he's thinking about what he wants to do and where he wants to end up, and he sees her. Very emotional moment. They both get the heck out of there and they escape. Let's move on real quick. We're getting towards the end of the movie here. I know we're running out of time, but we're getting there. We're almost there. So Asgard, the Reality Stone is there. At that point, it was the ether, and it was inside of Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman. Hashtag Padme forever. So the Reality Stone, Rocket tries to get through to him, and at first it looks like it's going to work, but the panic attack ensues, and he just freaks out, and they go to get the stone, and then he just turns around and runs away, and himself and turns around. And he's like, oh, great. So then he gets the stone. But Thor, of course, is like following his mom because he misses his mom really hard. And man, that just, it just got me just how much he needed her and how she was gone. And this moment of seeing her, he just had to see her, so he follows her. They have this great talk, and she brings him back. She brings back Thor from this depression that he's been just stuck in since Infinity War. And I'm glad to see him kind of come back, even though he's still Fat Thor. You get that funny he's still fed, but he's back. He's in it. He's not going to be drinking anymore. He's going to get it done. So it's unfortunate that he chickened out and never got to have that moment with Jane Foster again. I was kind of bothered by that. I was really hoping that they'd have this like awkward moment and he'd be all of a sudden fat and she just seen him and he wasn't. And I was really looking forward to that, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Last but not least, right before they leave, puts his hand out, he summons Mjolnir, and it comes back to him and he says, "I'm still worthy," just almost in shock, like in the state of him. He's like, "I can't believe it." What did you guys think of this whole Asgard moment? Boba, let's start with you.
Well, before that whole "I'm still worthy" part, it was just funny because he just stuck his hand out, and Rocket's like, "What the hell's going on? What are you doing?"
What are you doing?
And his mom's like, sometimes it takes a second.
It takes a second, yeah. That was great.
And then it just wham! I'm still worthy.
Yeah, that was great.
That was pretty funny, yeah. Leo, what about you? What did you think of the whole Asgard thing?
It was good for character development for Thor and closure also. It was good. And it sets up one of my favorite parts of the movie later.
Oh, awesome. One of my favorite parts actually comes up after this. They go to Morag with opening scene of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is my favorite Marvel movie that's come out in the Infinity War saga. You see Star-Lord dancing on Morag, going to get the stone.
That was great.
So freaking funny. Come and get your love. Come and get your love. And then, like, you see it, how you see it in the beginning of the movie, dancing and he's kicking the lizard. Dun, 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 dun. And then you're taken out of that moment and you're sitting right next to Nebula and Rhodey, and he goes, "So he's a moron." Yeah, like, so funny. You hear Chris Pratt sitting there singing the song, being a goofball that he is. Oh my gosh, I love that whole moment. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys like that like I did?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%. It was hilarious.
So funny. It's hysterical. Anything with Chris Pratt, I'm just all about it. That guy is so funny. Of course, as funny as it was, they do get the stone, and it leads us to knowing essentially where the story is going at this point. Because when you mess with time travel, shit never works right. So Thanos figures out what's going on. He now officially knows the plan. He knows they're gathering the stones, so what a great way to just, take over the universe. Let your enemy gather the stones for you and then just jump in and take them all for yourself. Freaking bastard. He understands this through Nebula, who for some odd reason is connected to her other version, which is
neural
in the same
network.
timeline.
Yeah, it's the same network.
That was just like kind of a stretch for me, but I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Obviously, you guys you got it right away. At this point, are you guys like accepting what's happening and you're buying it? You're like, okay, this is what's happening. Or how are you guys feeling? Leo, let's start with you.
Yeah, we kind of just had to accept it at this point. You know what I mean? We just had to deal with what was going on in the movie. So I accepted it. I agree with you. It wasn't my favorite way of involving Thanos, but yeah, it was good still. It worked out still.
Definitely brought him back into the story, that's for sure. So, and Boba, what about you? Just the whole setup of the plot and kind of the direction that it was taking. Were you happy with it at that point, or were you kind of still? How are you feeling?
I wasn't necessarily happy with it. To me, it made sense because there's only one, so it's going to be the same, essentially brainwave, I guess you could say. So if another one comes in, they're linking together. It's going to be the same, and she's going to get the kickback, like, "Hey, what the hell is this?"
Yeah,
so I mean, it made sense to me. But
he had access to all those memories. I do like how he was able to see his last moments. I thought that was pretty awesome, and he was kind of a badass. He was like, this is the price. Like, he was just like, well, that's what happens. I'm okay with it. Whatever. I got what I wanted, and then I got my head chopped off, but it's whatever. I won. Boom, bitches. Drop the mic, So, yeah, it set up pretty good. At that moment, I was pretty unsure of the direction, but I was willing to give it a shot. So, of course, from here we move into one of the toughest parts of the whole movie, Vormir. They had to go get the Soul Stone, and yeah, it was tough to watch. Hawkeye and Black Widow, of course, was the team that was chosen to go get it. And at this point, as the viewer, we already know what it takes to get the Soul Stone because of what happened with Gamora and Thanos. So we know that one of them is going to have to die. Did you guys make that connection right away, or did it not occur to you till a little bit later?
I'll be
Boba?
honest. Sorry. I'm skipping Boba.
Just go for it. It's fine.
I'll be honest. I actually didn't see it coming. I didn't think that they were gonna go that route. I thought that they were gonna try to find some other way, or maybe use Red Skull in a different way to get the stuff. Like I didn't think that that was gonna be what they did, but
You kept expecting a way out,
Yeah.
essentially.
yeah,
I have to say I was the same way, and it wasn't until you see Red Skull and, he's like he's like depressed, like oh, I'm basically taking one of you to die, and he calls Natasha Lipshin, and I was like, oh crap, this is not going to be good. Bulba, did you see it coming, or?
Well, yeah, they're going to get the Soul Stone. No one's gotten it yet, so obviously somebody has to die. There's not any way around it. They made that perfectly clear when Thanos went to go get it.
Movie. Yeah.
I mean, it was obvious that those are the only two there. One of them's going to die.
I mean, I
kept
think,
hoping.
And obviously,
Yeah.
Black Widow was not going to allow Hawkeye to die because he has a family. She doesn't.
Mm.
That's the way I saw it, at least.
And that was the dilemma that was kind of presented, is that he has a family, but all the things that he's done, is he forgivable? Is he worthy of being reunited with his family? And of course, Natasha, Black Widow, thinks that he is, because she herself has gone through horrible things and done terrible things. And she said this line that is an amazing line: I don't judge people on their worst mistakes. To me, that's essentially what Marvel's all about. It's about being a hero no matter what. And, when it comes to making mistakes, you have to look past it and kind of own up to it and move forward. So yeah, I thought it was a great moment. Vormir was tough. Of course, we see it looked for a moment like Hawkeye was going to do it. He was going to make it, and he was going to be the one who sacrificed himself. But then at the very last freaking minute, Black Widow comes out with a freaking grapple hook, and she ended up being the one. She took the hit for the team, and just that moment of him breaking down, trying to hold her for dear life, and just the look on his face of desperation, and then it just didn't work, and she fell, and that was tough stuff. Wouldn't you say, guys?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I wasn't impacted that much when she died, when she sacrificed herself. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is the way they're going. I was a little surprised with it, but I wasn't affected by it.
Did you think that they were going to be able to get her and, to that extent, Gamora back as well, or?
No, I didn't. It didn't cross my mind at that point, but I don't know. It just didn't affect me. I guess because I wasn't connected to her character as much as the other Avengers.
I would have to agree with that, too.
Okay, understandable. So, of course, team gets back together. You get Imposter Nebula,
2014
which
Nebula.
I thought was genius, to get her to switch the plate on her head, and she looked like the other one, and she just was normal. Because, does she ever really talk? No, not really. So she, she's just there doing the brooding look stuff, and yeah, no one will notice. So I thought that was actually pretty smart. So they finally get everything together, the reverse snap, they get all the stones on the glove, and they're all trying to fight over who wants to do it, and Hulk essentially is the only one who's capable. Thor wanted to do it, but he pleaded. He was like, "Please let me do this, guys. Please, I need to do something." That was tough to watch. Just seeing him like he wants so desperately to be made useful and to actually help, and eventually he just has to understand, like, I'm not in any condition to do it, and it has to be Hulk because he's the gamma radiation man, and he essentially was made for the snap. Like, if anyone was going to survive it, that wasn't a freaking Titan like Thanos. It had to be Hulk. What do you guys think? Just overall of the snap and how it went down. You guys can go into the phone call afterwards as well.
it was kind of nerve wracking because at this point you're like, okay, is Thanos gonna bust in? You're like,
is it gonna stop it? Like,
yeah,
you don't know.
you don't know what's gonna happen. And then once it happens, and the snap actually gets off, you're like, okay, did it work? And you're kind of just on the edge of your seat because the whole movie has been set up to this point. Like, okay, are they going to reverse the snap? They have to reverse the snap because all of these characters that need to come back. And so it was kind of crazy. And then obviously getting the Hawkeye getting the phone call from his wife, and Ant-Man noticing the birds outside, like that was a good touch.
Oh, definitely. What about you, Bobo? What did you think of that moment?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, it was just like he looks like he's in so much pain, and then he just gets that snap off, boom, and he just faints. And did it work? Is everything better now? Are we gonna be all good? Ant-Man goes and looks at the birds, like Leo said. Dude gets his call from his wife, and then, bam!
Oh,
bang!
Yeah. Thanos crashes
Literally.
the freaking party. And he sits and waits for his enemies to come to him. That was pretty epic. Of course, Hawkeye finds the glove. Thank goodness. Takes off with it. Is chased down. Eventually, he gets approached by Nebula. We'll go into that in a little bit, but 2014 Nebula, and that was all crazy, but for the most part, I think the best thing that we can point out in this moment is just that Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man go up against Thanos. And if this fight didn't tell you how powerful Thanos is, even without the Infinity Gauntlet, I don't know what did. He had three of the most strongest heroes that the Avengers had to offer go up against this man and barely survived. They barely survived. This man is an animal. And it was a tough fight. It was pretty awesome, though. Some good moments. Probably my favorite moment of the whole film, by far, Mjolnir being wielded by Cap.
That was great.
And that reaction in the moment, everybody freaking screamed in the theater. There was cheering. But the reaction from Thor where he's like, I knew it. Like, that was so great. Later on, they're, holding each other's hammers. Some really funny moments. What did you guys think of the battle between Thor, Cap, and Iron Man before everything really culminated? Bulba, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, just that scene that you just depicted of Thor and Captain America switching the hammer and axe. I mean, no, I get the big one, you get the small one.
That was good, yeah.
I was dying at that point. But I mean, the battle was pretty epic, I would have to say.
I liked his double sword. I thought that was pretty cool. In his full armor, he went for it. He cracked Iron Man's shield. If you guys noticed that.
Captain America.
I'm sorry, Captain America's shield. Well, Iron Man gave it to. I'm sorry, I was thinking the shield.
He's trying to back up now.
No, see the shield that Iron Man gave to Captain in that movie. That's what I was essentially meaning to say.
Does this guy even know Marvel? Do you even know him?
It did not come out the right way. So yeah, the new shield that he got from Iron Man is now cracked as well, which is calling back to Civil War when it was cracked. So, man, that shield just cannot make it. Of course, we see it again later in the movie, but yeah, it was a tough fight. They got their asses handed to them. Another moment to mention, Thor summoning the thunder and doing his instant change, and now he's in his Thor uniform, not his the dude uniform. And I don't know if you noticed, his braid in his beard happened with the lightning.
I noticed that.
That was
like,
pretty
how did that happen?
cool. He went all freaking Asgardian. That was pretty awesome. Let's skip forward. We're almost to the big moment. Nebula, of course, holding everybody at gunpoint. Gamora shows up with the other Nebula who they've teamed up at this point, and Gamora has turned against Thanos. And they're sitting there trying to plead with Nebula, why are you following him? What are you doing? And obviously, she's absolutely terrified of Thanos with everything that he's done to her. She says, he won't let me. Remember that? The poor girl is just so under his thumb. She thinks that there's no way of teaming up with anybody against him. So it really speaks to that character's growth and just the confidence that she had to gain in herself and in her sister. Then, of course, we get Captain America getting beat down so hard. He gets up with his broken shield, and then you hear the radio on your left, Cap. Call back to which one was it? I think it was Winter Soldier when he was lapping Hawkeye. On your left. Remember that when he was running around the Washington, the monument, the water on your left. So that was a callback to that. That was pretty funny. I thought that was great. I got it right away. Now he's saying it to him. So they all, and then of course they all come through. I don't know about the theater you guys were in, but when Black Panther was the first one to come through, T'Challa with his sister, oh my gosh, the whole theater lost it. Did you guys get that similar reaction?
Not really.
Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, Richie was in a theater with 5 people besides himself.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I mean, I heard some people go, "Whoa, yeah," or it's like low guttural,
Dude.
like exclamation. But other than that,
there was legitimate hooting and hollering. They were so pumped that he came out, like especially he was the first one. It was pretty awesome, and it's T'Challa. So he comes out, and then you start to see everyone. He kind of come out of the portals, and then you realize what's happening. Everybody's back. It's badass. Just what are the feelings that are going through you as everybody starts coming through the portals?
Oh well, my arms, the goosebumps just started going. I actually got the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my god, this is like intense. You just see a bunch of portals opening. You don't even know half of who's coming through. You just know they're all there to help out, and it was just an exciting moment.
There was a lot of them. There was a ton of them that came out. And there was another funny moment before we move over to Leo to get his take on that moment where Doctor Strange was there and then so does Wong. And Strange asks him, he's like, did you get everyone? And Wong goes, you wanted more?
Oh, yeah.
like this isn't enough? So, yeah, that was hilarious. So, Leo, tell me, tell me about the feels. What was going on when you started seeing everybody show up and the Avengers are assembling?
So as everybody was showing up, the one thing that I thought to myself was, thank God Spider-Man is alive. No, I'm just kidding. I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite Marvel character. But
dude, word, bro. Me too.
But yeah, it was great. It was just seeing everybody. And also, like you said, seeing the Avengers assemble, and we finally got the line from Cap.
Avengers
assemble.
Under his breath, so nobody could hear it. Assemble. Did you guys notice that? So yeah, like I saw Spider-Man, and I straight teared.
On a side note, Pepper Potts' name is actually Rescue. So you were correct.
Oh, it is awesome!
Yeah.
Wow, good job, man. So yeah, man, it was a great moment seeing everybody come together. You get the Avengers assemble. Absolutely beautiful. Peter reunited with Tony. That was a very emotional moment where you see Tony sitting there. I don't even think he was listening to anything that he was saying, overwhelmed with the fact that he's looking at Peter Parker's face. And it was just this wonderful reuniting moment. Leo, I know that moment was really special for you. What did you think about it?
Yeah, again, it was just kind of the father figure role, and seeing that he was there, it was touching. The scene later was my favorite one, but this one was still good. It was touching.
Awesome, man. So yeah, at this point, Spider-Man does his keep away thing. I thought that was awesome. Kind of like everybody helps Spidey, and he was just going for it. It's really fun at this point to see all these superheroes interact with each other for like the first time. I thought that was probably one of the best moments.
Spider-Man and Captain Marvel was my favorite.
Oh, dude, that was great too, man. Oh, dude, so fun. Speaking of Captain Marvel, she shows up. Thanos, unfortunately, gets the gauntlet, puts it on, and he starts, thinking about all the terror he's going to commit. And then all of a sudden, freaking Captain Marvel shows up. The the ship starts shooting at her, and everyone's like, "What the heck's going on? There's something coming in through the atmosphere." And of course, it's Captain Marvel. She shows up, and man, she gave him a run for his money. The headbutt, the freaking headbutt was intense, guys.
And
And
how she
just
was
like,
overpowering him before he could snap. He was
oh yeah,
getting ready to snap, and she just came in
Yeah.
and was bending his hand
wouldn't let him
backwards.
do it. Oh, dude,
And
I
that's
think,
what leads me to think that
Oh,
what
she
she was
is.
saying, if she had been there the first time, none of this
oh,
would
big
have
time.
happened.
Oh, dude,
Because
he
she
was
was just
shitting his
overpowering
pants.
him right there.
Dude, totally, I totally agree
And
with
I
that.
think one of my favorite parts because of this is when on that one moment and Thanos takes the Power Stone into his other hand, out of the gauntlet, and just smacks her with it
Yeah,
to
that was
get her
dope.
away.
That was dope.
I would not have ever thought of doing that. I mean, that's just
That was intense.
that
He
was
hit, he
spur of
hit
the
her
moment.
pretty
I was
hard
like,
though.
oh yeah, well,
She-
with it's
she-
a Power Stone, of course he's gonna hit her hard.
She didn't come back. She didn't come back after that one, dude. That was intense. So, and yeah, she is strong. She essentially got her powers from was it the Tesseract? I can't remember. I think it was the Tesseract. That's where her powers derived from because that was what was powering the thing that I better not say. We'll keep that one down because somebody here. Ooh, that was
Wait,
a
isn't
spoiler.
the Tesseract how Cap got his power too?
Oh,
It derived from
gosh.
it?
I think it was, huh?
I can't
They
remember.
got
man.
the serum from that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, so apparently it makes a lot of super people. Even though it's space stone. So yeah, so the whole Captain Marvel headbutt thing was great, and then that essentially leads into this big moment where Tony looks over at Strange. He puts up the one, like this is the one. This is it. Tony goes in, does what he has to do, takes the stones from the freaking gauntlet. He goes up, does the snap, nothing. He's like, what the hell? Pan over to Iron Man. I am Iron Man. He does the snap, and it's like, what were you guys feeling in that moment? I was like,
Oh, he dead. That's
Oh,
immediately
yeah,
what I thought.
it was a mixture of, oh shit, he just did that, but then it was like, oh shit, he's dead. Like I didn't know what to feel. Like I was like happy, sad at the time. Like, wait, did he survive? Like, oh, Hulk survived, but wait, he's Hulk, and the gamma radiation. I don't know. Like, there was just a big ball of emotions. What do you guys think, Bulba?
Yeah, I mean, just right when Thanos was about to snap and he looks at the gauntlet and there's no stones and Tony's just on his knees and he just puts his hand up and the stones just come crawling into place. And then he just, I am Iron Man. Snap!
Badass, dude.
Was.
And then
Oh my
all you
gosh.
see is everyone all of the bad guys disappearing, and then Thanos just sits down like, son of a bitch, you guys got me.
You got me.
That's just the look he gives, and then all of a sudden he just slowly fades out of existence, and now Tony and Pepper Potts are just having a moment of Pepper saying, we'll be okay, don't worry, we're going to be great,
Don't
everything's
remind
going
me.
to be fine.
And Spider-Man and Peter Parker. It's the reverse of Infinity War.
yeah.
Oh, man. I'm not going to lie
it was
to
the
you.
reverse.
Hashtag real
Peter-
man tears. I'm not going to
Peter
lie.
That's
comes
me,
up,
romantic.
he faces the loss of his mentor and like, no, we won. Mr. Stark, no, he calls him Mr. Stark, man. Come on.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just the feels. It was tough, man. But Pepper remained strong in that moment. You know, pushes Peter out of the way and just kind of, it's gonna be okay. I have to talk to my husband. She says, "We're gonna be okay. You can rest now, Tony." And he lets go. You see the moment where he lets
Yeah.
go, and it's just
His heart
oh,
thing turns off. The hell, what's that called?
The arc
You guys remember what
reactor.
it's called?
the
arc
glowing
reactor.
thing on his chest. Yeah.
It just
that's
turns
true.
off, and then his hand just
Falls.
loses all life, and it drops.
Oh, it was such a tough moment, but
You see
you really
Thor,
felt that loss.
and then you see Thor and Captain America just in the background, tears in both of their eyes as they just
Mhm.
realize the sacrifice that he
Oh.
just made. Yeah, it
Was tough.
was tough.
The gravity of what Doctor Strange did. He went through all those different possible futures, and probably in most of them, if not all of them, he never gave up the Time Stone. And it wasn't until he decided to save Tony by giving up the Time Stone that they won. Because without Tony, they wouldn't have been able to figure out. Even though the rat is the MVP, okay? Even though the rat is the MVP, the one they needed in order to decipher the time travel and then cause the reverse snap that would destroy Thanos, that was Tony. It was always Tony. And he knew. He knew he needed to keep that sucker alive. Thank God for Tony Stark, everybody.
Staying alive, staying alive.
He is. Well, now he's dead. Now he's dead. He's Iron Man.
Ooh, that's a little harsh, man. Too soon.
It was tough. It was tough, but I have to say, if it was going to be anybody, I'm glad it was Tony, the man who started off the entire saga.
That's pretty rude.
That callback.
That's right, Tony. You die.
It was just satisfying that he was the one who got the final blow. You know what I mean? And that callback to that line from the end of Iron Man, the first one, I am Iron Man, at the press conference. That was great. That was great. So we're wrapping this up now. Let's talk about the funeral before we do our final message here. Speaking of final message, Tony gave his eulogy essentially via recorded hologram. And it was like the moment he looked at his daughter and said, "I love you 3000." He looked up right at her, and I was like, "Oh, how does he know? I don't care." It was just tough, man. Oh, it was tough. But his words of inspiration, like, we're gonna win. It was tough to see that, but the funeral and the pan out where you get to see everybody in their groups and they're all kind of hanging out with each other. Everybody's a freaking clique. Why can't you just all sit together, you bastards? And
we all know how he feels.
Yeah.
The proof that Tony Stark has a heart, all the way to Happy having that discussion with Morgan.
Oh,
hungry? What do you want to eat?
Don't skip over the young man that was standing in the back before it got to Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, from Iron Man 3. Yeah,
yes, it was the little kid from Iron Man 3.
A lot of people had no freaking idea who he was.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I had no idea who the kid was.
Yeah, I thought not, and that's what I wanted to explain was for everyone who didn't know who that was, and more than likely is going to take up some form of Iron Man for Tony Stark.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Of Marvel
I wouldn't be surprised
for this next
if anybody
phase.
can test that. Go back and watch Iron Man 3. You might be surprised. So, yeah, one of my favorite moments, that moment with Morgan and Happy, where she wants cheeseburgers, and we know that Tony has had this affair with freaking cheeseburgers, man.
Well, that's the first thing he asked for when he got found in Iron Man, the first one.
In the first one, he got back. He was call press conference. And I want an American cheeseburger. That's the first thing he asked for. So it was just like, she's just like her dad. Like it was sad. It was really sad. So, and then of course we're kind of winding down to the very last thing. The old man Cap. Cap goes back in time to return all the stones to the moment they were taken, sustaining those timelines, and then also returning Mjolnir, which he was totally freaking worthy of carrying. Can we just talk about that for a second? Freaking Captain America.
Well, we already knew he was worthy of carrying it.
I know, but it was just like, it was a nudge. Now this fool was like swinging it around. He was using its lightning. That was
probably the coolest part of it.
Yeah, that freaking hammer. That was badass. Anyways, so he takes everything back, and they try and bring him back, and of course, what the heck? He missed it. Well, get him back! Get him back! They panic, and then they look up and they see there's an old man sitting over on that bench. Oh, it must be Captain America. So they go over, and there's old Steve Rogers. And I have to say, the freaking CGI on him that made him look old was great.
Yeah.
It was so good.
His old man acting was really good, too.
Oh, dude, yeah. I bought it. He was like, did he kind of remind you of Clint Eastwood?
A little bit. Just I could see that.
His squinty savviness. Like, I was like, this guy.
Squinty savviness.
He owns his age. He's like the Chuck Norris of old men, Like, I believed it. It was great. And the mantle was passed, of course, to Hawkeye. He gives the shield to Hawkeye.
Not Hawkeye.
Not Hawkeye. Jeez, do you even go here?
Falcon.
Oh, dude, you know what?
Oh, my God.
You know what? It's okay. That was in my outline.
It's not okay.
I just wrote it incorrectly. It wasn't Hawkeye. That's my bad.
It's not okay.
He gives it to Falcon. He gives it to Falcon, and
We
Falcon
need a
has
new
this,
Fabby.
this
My-
mode. You
bro.
know what? Send your hate mail to gatheringbros@gmail.com.
We need a new Fadby.
He gives it.
This one's inspired.
He gives it to Falcon, and Falcon has this moment of, "It doesn't feel like it's mine," and he's like, "But it is." And it's like, I was like, well, maybe he's gonna throw it over to Bucky. He's like, "I'll take that shit." Like, but no, that's not what happened. It's gonna be Falcon. I'm actually pretty happy with Falcon. I think his relationship with Cap has been really unique.
You sure it's not
In
Hawkeye?
that how they met, I'm pretty confident. How they met when Falcon was going through his stuff, being a vet, and it's a callback to Cap. What Cap is best at when he's not being Captain America, saving the universe. He's freaking helping people. He's going and helping vets and helping them work through their problems. And essentially, that's what he did with Falcon. He helped him. A lot of people forget that. Like, he helped him work through, his own issues and, after war. And essentially, it led to him becoming the next Captain America. I'm pretty happy with that. What do you guys think? Were you guys satisfied? Would you have preferred it to be Bucky or maybe somebody else?
I was satisfied. I was satisfied. I kind of had alluded to who I thought it was in last week's episode, but I'm satisfied. There are both realizations in the comics where both of them took up Captain America's mantle, so either way, it worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, you're right. Yeah, they both end up becoming Captain America at some point. I'm pretty glad that it was Falcon, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few movies at some point he dies and then passes it to Bucky, or Bucky becomes a stand-in for maybe he gets hurt or something and he picks up the shield. That would be cool.
Yeah, I was pretty satisfied with it as well. I mean, Bucky is the Winter Soldier. That's him. At least that's the way I'm seeing it. You can't take that away from him. So
that's his superhero identity.
Yeah, that's who he is. I mean, obviously Falcon is Falcon, but it's cool to see him become something new.
Of course, we see that in the end he stayed with Peggy. He didn't come back in time, and he kind of got his retirement, his well-earned retirement. Because Captain America, as you know, he worked hard for the people, and he put his great power to use. And we see him dancing with Peggy at the very end, fade out with the music. It was beautiful. Did you guys like that ending? How it ended right there? I thought it was very appropriate to see kind of like a happy ending.
He got what he earned. It was a good send off.
That's been our show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to The Gathering of Bros. You can find the links to all the ways you can stay in touch with us in the description, whether it's on YouTube or on Spotify. Check it out. All our information's on there. Our Twitter account is @GatheringOfBros. You can also find the link to our Discord server where you can chat with us, play games, and maybe just continue the great discussion we had today about Endgame. So remember, don't spoil the Endgame. If there's anybody who hasn't seen it, don't ruin it for them. Let them go see it. Otherwise, feel free to engage with us. Lastly, if you have any questions, comments, please hit us up at our email at gatheringofbros@gmail.com. Again, that's gatheringofbros@gmail.com. We really would appreciate any and all feedback. If there's any topics you would like us to discuss in the future, feel free to let us know. Mention it to us in the Discord or send us an email, and we'll talk about the topic on air. So you can find us on Spotify or on YouTube. We also have a YouTube channel. Remember to turn on your notifications so you get reminded every time we have a new episode. Again, this has been so much fun. Thank you guys for joining us for another gathering. Until next week's gathering, have a good one. Peace out and stay gold.
Peace out.
See you later.